two, three.
Welcome to the Smartest Amazon Seller Podcast. But by the end of this podcast, we probably should rename it to the Smartest TikTok Seller Podcast, because we're going to talk about, that Amazon isn't the only show on the road right now. There's obviously a lot of changes even in early 2026. I have with me the US CEO of Base.com, Maciej Stansky. He is former Amazon employee, and I do want to get him to explain some of the cool stuff that he worked on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Scott. Super excited to be here. Thanks for nailing my first name.
Good. Tell me, you worked at Amazon, and you worked in the logistics side. I think most listeners of this podcast try and become FBA experts. They just like to know, It's like there's insights like what happens to your inventory? How do we optimize? You may not have all the answers, but what I'm saying is there's general interest in just like FBA.
Yeah.
What was your experience on that side?
First, I worked at the network planning team in Middle Mile Logistics back in 2018. Hopefully they didn't change their name. This was basically a team where we were scheduling and optimizing the routing of trucks between fulfillment services and last mile logistics. So Amazon consolidates volume in the middle because there just isn't enough volume to have direct connections at all times. Very interesting experience.
Is this optimization of the existing inventory, or is this after the sales go through optimizing the
after the sales go through? So
okay.
You have your inventory in fulfillment centers in New Jersey. You want to send it somewhere else. Usually, they do a good job placing the inventory close to demand centers. But if it's far away and you need to consolidate volumes, back then they had 50 fulfillment centers. I'm sure they have now more to consolidate that volume.
Were you focused on EU or the US?
US. I worked in Seattle. I still live here.
And were you sometimes, unfortunately, they probably have to fly stuff.
Yes.
And generally you're trying to how can we not do that?
Exactly. Yeah, it was when you join a company like Amazon, you see all the planes, it's awesome, and then you sit back and you think to yourself wait, why would we do that? And the simple answer is speed and differentiations. And 2 days seemed ridiculous, then 1 day seemed ridiculous, and now people want it, and you won't buy anything unless you get it the next day. So that's why. But I also think they do their best to avoid that.
Okay, cool. So if you've got any other insights on that, if not, we can move on. I just wanted to think through that because that's a cool background into obviously what you do now. I always, like I said, I'm always looking for how's this FBA thing just working? Because it is actually an unlock and in a lot of ways made Amazon what it is. But Amazon is there is definitely an omni-channel push. Walmart succeeded in becoming a stakeholder. They got a marketplace. If you talked to me before COVID, I would have put money on that Walmart would have failed.
Yeah.
But COVID helped. They succeeded. They got a marketplace. But TikTok is actually a revenue driver now for a lot of US digitally native brands. But you can't sleep on all the other ways of selling.
Yes.
I mean, D2C is great. And I mean, even Target, Michael on my team has a product. He's told me last night, he's I think I got to launch on Target. I think I get my listing up there because, because people are a little bit annoyed right now by FBA fees went up. Amazon's holding more. They have a higher account reserve now. It's called the
Yep.
DD plus 7. And then they made it so you can't pay for advertising with a credit card. So those are like a few cash crunch uh, things that make selling on Amazon harder. And so people are like, well, what else is out there?
Yeah.
How would you see describe the moment we're in, um, and how people are thinking? How your you interact with a lot of brands, sellers, and how they're thinking.
So it's an extremely interesting moment. When we started in the US in 2023, I still would run into many events where, I would pitch multi-channel because that's essentially what we do a lot of that. And I would still meet with, oh, Amazon is the number one game in town. I don't really need anything else. And Amazon is still number one a game in town,
Yeah.
and it's still worth it. It's just that the growth there is not as simple as it used to be, and it's not as forgiving like you said, like they have a business to run. They raise their advertising fees, they raise other fees. It's still a great place to be to have your base in, but there's, for the last couple of years, there are like a lot of legitimate alternatives emerged. So Walmart has always been there, but they really pushed hard in the past couple of years, especially in the omni-channel space, although I still think they could and should do more. TikTok is very valuable. I think TikTok is very interesting, especially for smaller sellers, because there is a sort of greenfield element to it beyond advertising, where with the big guys on Amazon, if you are not able to compete with all the advertising budgets on TikTok, if you have time, resources, and willingness to figure out how to get more eyeballs on your products, like you can still do it. And you're going to put a lot of effort into it, but you're competing on a sort of different field with a lot of, you know, SMBs investing in Amazon paid media don't necessarily have the budget left, or maybe even like labor left to take care of that TikTok advertising. So this one is very interesting. A lot of like big portion of the GMV with support in the US is actually TikTok. I think it's number one or two channels we have right now. On the other hand, it's a hit or miss. It's hard to make plans there because your marketing efforts can be super successful if they deserve.
Right.
Um,
Um, it like TikTok is like a social commerce first marketplace. So if you can't sell it on a video, then it may not sell super well. People aren't looking for spatulas on um, TikTok unless that spatula like just looks fancy.
Yeah, and yeah, like this brings me to the core point here because we could go channel by channel and like list all of
Yeah.
them, but that's not the point. They've always been there. I think we're in a really interesting moment because, it's not enough to just exist, be, and sell and list stuff. We're at this stage where everybody across the board is raising their fees. We need to diversify as a seller, but you also need to pay people to manage all that.
Uh-huh.
And something that used to be treated as an afterthought, which is the entire back office e-commerce operations running multi-channel, used to be an afterthought. Product catalog hygiene used to be an afterthought, used to be something that you would outsource and you would treat it as a cost center. Now it's becoming something that you can turn into your moat. Like you're going to have a great catalog to scale and manage across those channels. Everyone wants to talk about agentic AI. Like nobody knows what it's going to look like in the future, but there's one hard truth that your data has to be in order and it has to be much, much richer and built out than it is now. And you just need the tools to do that. And those sellers who put effort and investment into it are going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my take.
I mean, all that's like really important. I mean, still uh, see gaps. I think in the last week, I've seen two things. I saw Rockstar Energy run out of stock on a listing that has like, uh, probably 500,000 a month, which is kind of crazy. Because like you're actually not used to seeing that from a large stable brand just like run out of stock. I saw someone else run out, and like you're like, hey, this is 2026. You can't do this, especially if you're an established player like that. That hurts. Um, I think if they do that, they lose a lot of their subscribe and save orders, and so I mean, we can spend our more on like the ramifications, but what you said is true. That there's more sophistication is needed, and and data and planning and whatever, and it's almost a little bit, it's harder if you're multi-channel.
Yep.
It's easier if you're using tech. I'm just curious, like there is, you know, you did mention agentic shopping. We and I think you nailed it. We don't know where it's going to go. I actually think most people that predict something, they're going to be wrong. And the case in point was that ChatGPT gave up on
Yes.
their agentic thing
Yeah.
because, and there was a report or a leak that Walmart said like conversion rates were lower than just on their website. So there's a behavior thing that we just don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
And yeah, interesting anecdote from our end, from base.com. And I think, OpenAI released the news about the agentic checkout, I think sometime end of September last year. The next day, we had an integration ready. And you're right, I think they killed it 3 weeks ago. So it's been a very funny experience, which only underscores the point that you have to look at those things from the perspective of like the lowest common or the highest common denominator, which is, whether it's agentic or whether it's anything else or whether it's OpenAI or some other agent, they will need data. And the recommendations there will be more, contextual. They won't be so reliant on SEO. So you're going to have rich data. It's not going to be enough to have your,
tell me
yeah.
tell me a little bit more what you mean by data.
What I mean by data is parameters specifically around your products. Right now, you can pretty much get by with all the basic stuff if you hit all the keywords that people are looking for in the title and parameters and your bullet points. It's going to get much harder to live if the discovery switches from SEO to agentic, where you actually ask questions and you talk about context. And for the record, I don't know if it will switch. Like, I might be
Um,
an older millennial. Like, I don't enjoy
I,
asking. Yeah.
I'm the same. Like I'm. What's interesting is I'm not sold on agentic commerce at all in its current like world. Um, I was against Alexa shopping. I was like, no one's going to buy their sneakers without seeing it.
Isn't
That that's the point. Is like you want to look cool. So
yeah.
I'm like I'm not always sold on predictions, but I am sold on like um, visibility, like getting your products visible, getting your products understood. Uh, because I mean, I'm not joking. Yesterday, I was like comparing treadmills on ChatGPT, and so um, there's no question that uh, these new tools are impacting e-commerce, at least from like an analysis and discovery. And so I guess like what you're saying, that like you have the data of your product and its attributes and all of that in as many places as possible, or sorry, as accurate or like in the right place. So yeah, we're
Also,
we're aligned.
uniformly organized. Like, you don't want conflicts between, one channel versus another. And that ties back to the point you made about sorry, forgot the name of the company, the well-established brand that ran out of stock. Like, this is the symptom of running Amazon as a siloed team and or organization in your company. So parameters and like single source of truth are extremely important. And just to touch on a little bit the agentic stuff, I'm skeptical. People were skeptical about mobile shopping though. Like I'm sure maybe my daughter picks it up and like the natively inter technologist kids will be doing that. It just may come later than everybody
No, no.
expects.
Um, well, it also takes different, like what actually ends up being maybe a different form factor than like we think and see
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there's change, but where it actually like where the behavior follows through, we don't know.
No, no. Well, all we can do is like get our operations in order, and that's
Right.
sort of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, because um, yeah, there's just some things that are true. Like this is the dumb little I've heard this too many times, but people are like asking what's they're asking Jeff Bezos. This is the quote. What's going to change in the next few years? And he's like, well, I can't tell you what's going to change. I can tell you what's not going to change. What's not going to change is people are still going to want their products at a good price, and they're always going to want faster and faster shipping. And so like that's a playbook for them to deliver. And then I could even add another layer in regards to e-commerce and brand owners is people are always going to um, be influenced by advertising, whether it's direct, search or through video content, through TikTok or whatever. We're all going to be influenced still,
Yep.
whether it's even through ChatGPT. I was influenced by what ChatGPT said about treadmills, and that's not going to change. So there we have it. We could add to Jeff Bezos' quote that it's kind of like a get your e-commerce house in order.
Yep. And just to talk on one more one more thing from Jeff Bezos from my days at Amazon, like working backwards in the context of AI, like don't treat it as a hammer walking around looking for nails. Like your goal is to sell stuff online, like, figure out how to use those tools to achieve those results. I feel like, there is an argument to be made that AI is like a gym. The more you use it, the more uses you find for it. I think you have to touch the right balance here because a lot of sellers have problems that are, they have way simpler solutions than applying the latest um, agentic coding, factor there. Simple workflow automation would solve a ton of problems that people have, and just
It's
maintaining a single catalog.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not
you
rocket
know,
science.
I can relate with that. Is like I've gone through things. Let's say like a list of like 30 things that need to get ingested into our database. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I can just like code that up. Or I can just copy paste one at a time. Yeah, it takes 30, but like I get it done. And I'm going to relate it back to the agentic thing. It's like sometimes like it's not always the right hammer to use in every situation. I do think most entrepreneurs, most people in our business, like um, uh, not always using the right, like not always identifying the most impactful problems.
Yeah.
We get caught up. Oh, I saw this LinkedIn. Someone's going to say, "Oh my goodness, I saw this LinkedIn post about this guy using AI video to do this, 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 and this, and this," and like we get caught in the wave
Yep.
when it's like, no, 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 no. Here's what's more important. You know, take your
And
good.
and
Yeah,
and that, may explain a little bit why you're because there's always this discussion between like smaller sellers and big international brands, like, who handles it better. It all boils down to focus, and it's so hard to focus when you're a big brand and you have 50 teams and 3 teams do the same thing, versus working as a smaller brand where you actually can focus and you now have those tools at your disposal to manage your operations better. Like we can work across both those dimensions, but I just want to like throw it out there that if you're an SMB and you think the big guys have figured it out, a lot of times they haven't, or maybe like, they figured out one piece of it, but there's still, they have 50 brands under one umbrella and like all the brands have separate ERPs. Like that's,
no one's figured this out. Like we're all learning this together.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting that I feel like it's a wave of information and so forth, where like the big guys are learning at the same rate as the little ones, and um, we almost have like a fear that like someone else has an edge, and um, there's definitely pockets that like the edge is real. I think um, in creating uh,
Oh, for sure.
like designs, images or whatever. Like no, the edge is like it's here, um, but other parts I'm not completely sold. So interesting. I'm happy to be talking to a fellow skeptic.
Well, not
Well,
really. It is just, it's a very interesting moment in the market. AI is real, and we at Base.com use AI not only to, add new features to our product that are AI based and just scale much faster, but also for code generation and just, releasing more features. But it just has to be done with a purpose. And I feel
sure.
like if you sit in a room, you go to a conference and you have 50 people talking about the same stuff, you're just chasing the wild goose. It
Well,
sometimes makes sense to just
yeah,
sit down, isolate. There is a reason why Warren Buffett is not in Wall Street. He's somewhere in
yeah.
Omaha in a small town, and he takes
Well,
his decisions there.
I think skeptic's the wrong word. It's more of like, you don't have AI fever. It's not like you're like, every moment, everything has to be AI, which, sometimes it feels like it's out there. Um, well,
We
um,
absolutely do, but we want to prepare brands and sellers with fundamentals that will allow them to leverage
yeah,
it, not throw around, a bunch of AI generative features that are cool on the face of it, but, don't serve much purpose. We have a ton of AI built in, happy to talk about
yeah,
it, but it all serves the purpose of like getting you to market quickly
yeah,
and orchestrate how the operations run in backend. It's all purposeful.
perfect. Well, uh, yeah. So uh, tell me, a little about your world, and like the types of brands that you serve, and like, who gets the most value out of like who gets lost in the multi-channel.
Sure. So, Base is a multi-channel sales management software. We provide a single layer for brands of pretty much any size, from small, through SMBs through large enterprises. Although in the US we focus on the SMB and large enterprise space, we provide a single layer where they can manage all their channels through from listing and product information through order, uh, order orchestration and fulfillment. Um, Now, it's a very interesting question, like who benefits the most from a product like this? I would say it obviously works for everybody who uses multi-channel because it lets you automate stuff and orchestrate how you run things on the back end and maybe leverage your small team to add extra 2 or 3 channels. But really, who benefits the most are big brands with as much complexity across their operations and product catalog as possible. Fashion would be a good example. You have a ton of variants and bundles. Like it's extremely
Yeah,
difficult to manage it channel to channel. If you have a, well enriched, fully parameterized um, product catalog in one place as a source of truth, and then you can feed it to all those channels, that's a huge win. Um, um, Beauty would be another one. Um, uh, Industries where order orchestration is complicated. So let's say you're using different 3PL services across in the US, and maybe your catalog is not that complicated. But once you get an order, you need to be able to automatically wire it to the right 3PL in the region to the right warehouse, because otherwise you will be shipping it from across the country. That's number
yeah,
two. And just to, sorry, just throw it out there, just to completely illustrate the point of operational complexity. Let's say you're a POD, print on demand brand, and you have a ton of licensing agreements, which is also something we run into. You are allowed to sell a given product in Amazon UK, Amazon US, but you're not allowed to sell it in Amazon Canada. You need some sort of a logic and automation to ensure you're not listing in the wrong
Yeah.
places. You have all the checks and balances. Like the more complexity, there's a ton of examples of complexity, but like the more complexity like this, rather than hiring teams of compliance people and operations people, like software can do that for you. And that's where we come in to sit between, the back end of ERP, the front end of marketplaces and Shopify and other storefront platform. Like we are very comfortable in that middle, orchestrating it.
Awesome. Um, uh, that's totally like, yeah, there's it's almost like when you approach that problem, it might even be too late. You're like, oh shoot. you know, like,
Which is,
so
yeah.
it's something what you want to plan around and think ahead on and get ahead of it. um, I'm actually considering launching a product right now, and I already know that I'm launching in two channels from the
Hmm.
get-go. So um,
Which ones
that's
and why, if I
uh,
may?
TikTok and Amazon.
Makes sense.
Um, I've been hit by the TikTok bug. I can't unthink it. Um, my number two at Smart Scout, um, I've worked with him for 8 years. He left 2 months ago because he launched a product on TikTok, and he just told me last night he's already done 1.3 million in sales
Nice.
in 6 months. So yeah, and that has led me to just like, we're also building a TikTok tool, so kind of like taking our same like perspective on insights and data. We're actively building a TikTok solution. So part of me wants to launch again just to like have a story that like fits like what I think is possible. And it's just fun. So
That's awesome. And think about TikTok. I was actually surprised. I don't remember the exact statistics, but the average age or like, the proportion of the audience that's over 18 years old is actually way higher than I thought.
oh
Like I don't remember the exact numbers,
my,
but like I was shocked
oh,
how
oh no,
relevant the audience is.
Michael, his average age of people that are buying his product is over 50.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So see, like,
It's a niche. If you he doesn't talk about it publicly, but it's a niche. If you heard that, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
yeah.
Uh,
So, those channels are absolutely incremental. Like if you know if you have a good fit, like, don't launch everywhere at once. Make sure it makes sense. But a lot of them actually cater to audiences that you may not be able to reach with your main channel, for example. Like TikTok, I feel like TikTok is a really good example, maybe Shein in certain circumstances. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Cool. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on, chatting on. I saw you guys had a great presence at Prosper. I wanted to learn a little bit more, and yeah, pumped for this new interesting era that maybe it's not an Amazon only era. So it's base.com, right?
Yes,
That's
it's base.com, pretty simple domain.
what a what
Yeah.
a, what what a domain.
Yeah, it was a great catch.
Yeah.
So we're super excited. We're in our phase of international expansion, and specifically here in the US. Hit me up. My email is m.stansky@space.com. Also pretty simple. And yeah, our next event is in New York, May 20 to 21st, the Lead Summit. Come see us.
What's it called?
It's called the Lead Summit, May 21st in New York City. We'll be there. We'll have our booth. Um, like we're trying to hit every city every month as much as we can to meet brands, meet sellers, and obviously, if you're thinking about multi-channel and use Scott as well, like give us a try. I'll give you a special discount.
All right, all right. That's what we come here for. Okay, thank you so much. Hey everyone, that's the pod. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott.
1, 2, 3.